It's a slow build. Thought there was what's going on. Hey, welcome back, Power Trip Morning Show. It's 8:05. Here we are. We're live. KFAN.com/watch. Hey.
Hey. Powered by Quantum Fiber, your world unleashed.
That's right. Quantum Fiber. See if I can turn this thing on so I can make sure what we're looking at now. Cast of thousands in the studio as it is Veterans Day. Hi. That's us. That's Max.
Hey, that's me.
That's Max. And I'm me.
That's Hawk.
And there's Meat Sauce, and behind him is Bruce. Sauce, watch your back. That guy's a badass. He'll whoop you.
Bruce is the best. I love Bruce.
He'll whoop you.
Yeah, well, anybody.
He's not in the ceiling, by the way.
What's that?
What? He's behind me.
He turned around. He looked up.
Yeah.
It did look like you were looking.
It looked like you were looking up. Like
I thought the camera was on.
Well,
like it was on the TV.
Oh, yeah, you thought you could...
Maybe Bruce was on ESPN.
Yeah, right.
You know,
right.
Bruce was the shark in Jaws. That was what Spielberg
true.
called
Maybe
that.
Bruce's last name is Wayne.
And this
right.
Bruce is right behind you.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
And
stalking you.
He knows how to take you out.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to pay him to do
Yeah.
so.
And so does Samuel. Keep an eye on Samuel right there in the middle, and John over there. All three of those guys are just... They're willing to do the dirty deeds. They've done it before, and they'll do it again.
I don't want that.
I need to talk to these fellas during the commercial break.
It is Veterans Day
they can
again.
help me
Now,
out.
we're going to be doing a podcast today with Bruce and Samuel and John over there to talk about their service to the United States. We'll have them on in the next segment a little bit to say hi to them, to get you all primed up for that podcast, which we'll post later today. But thank you for being here on Veterans Day, gentlemen. We appreciate it, and I'm glad to call you friends. So that's all coming up here in just a little bit. Good to see you. There's other guys in the studio as well who aren't my friends and aren't heroes. That's Ben and that's Moss right there.
That was very apt. Thank you.
Yeah, that's spot on.
Very true words.
Yep, that fits.
Ben, are you on the TV today?
I'm on the TV today.
Yeah.
I'll find out at 8:40 what's going on today.
Right.
I probably should know. But,
Probably.
You know, we do have a schedule that's out for
Sure.
like 2 weeks.
Sure.
But,
What about you, Mossman? Did they ever let you on TV anywhere?
No, once they went to high def, I was
you're
booted.
out. Right,
yeah.
yeah,
Used to be on with the Jared Allen show.
Yeah.
I used to be on TV live, but they were like, we can't zoom out enough. So let's just get him off of there.
not enough makeup.
Right.
That's why Sauce isn't on TV. They can't zoom out enough to get his whole
Yeah,
arm.
let's bring back Meat Sauce and Monty. Remember that show?
That'd be
Meat
fun.
Sauce and Monty.
Yeah, that would be fun. I am sitting here, and you guys are just hammering on me. I wasn't part of that. I don't need to be on TV.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
I think you're handsome.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
should we do sports?
Sure.
You guys want to?
Feel like we've gone through it all, but we can try.
It's
Sponsored.
time for Fan 5, brought to you by Builders and Remodelers.
Thanks, Builders and Remodelers. Builders and Remodelers have been a part of this for a long, long time. Appreciate them.
Thank you.
Gobble-a-goo.
Yep.
Thank you, Mike Grimm. That sounds like a witch's ceremony, right? Like
Yeah. You would love to be at a witch's ceremony.
I actually would,
Yeah.
Yeah, the gals from Charmed.
Yeah.
or the gals from Hocus Pocus.
Yeah,
I ain't
you
scared.
love all them, right?
I like them all. I like
You'd
all the
let them
ladies.
throw you around?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Cast spells
Samuel?
on you?
I love all the ladies.
Gobble-a-goo.
That's right.
Chris, you had DJ Moore in the Fantasy Charge
this
Challenge.
Rosie.
He scored 2 points, so you now have 110. You are 1 point ahead of John Creasel, who had Malik Neighbors, and no one should ever draft anybody when Daniel Jones is throwing you the ball. Or not throwing you the ball. At least he threw it.
To like the fourth quarter.
Yep, so Malik Neighbors had 4 points in Munich, and Creasel just 1 point behind the Ghost.
Yeah.
Zach has 112. 2 points ahead of Chris. Again, first time ever that he's ahead of the Ghost or the punishment at the end of a week. Sauce, you had just 5 points out of Khalil Shakir.
Yeah.
So you have
It's all right.
127. So you're up 17 points on Hawk with what do we got? 5 weeks left?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I feel pretty good. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I need Hawk to keep picking fifth or sixth, and I think
Yeah,
we'll be
well,
okay.
it just seems like it's rigged.
Well, Zach's the one doing the poll.
Oh, is that well?
I mean,
I mean, a little on the nose there, Sauce. Whoops. Little on the nose there, brother.
sorry, Hulkster.
I had George Pickens in his awesome touchdown, so I had 15 points. Parrish had a touchdown out to Cortland Sutton. He had 13 points, so I lead with 183. Parrish 145. Sauce 127. Zach 112. Hawk 110.
Say it right.
Creasel 109.
Hey, real quick, can I ask you a question? I know that one guy shoved the long snapper for the 49ers. Do you know why he did?
Oh, why Debo Samuel did that?
Frustrating because
Yeah.
they missed like 3 field goals, and he was getting pissed.
And was it the long snapper's fault?
I don't think so.
Even if it
Because
is.
Not only he got the kicker there too as well.
Well,
Yeah,
that was
kinda
just
hit
kind
them
of
both.
but I don't think the hitting the kicker was intentional. I think it was just like he shoved the long snapper and then his arm just kind
Shrapnel.
of like, yeah.
Right.
Speaking of long snappers, I didn't see it. I just heard people on Twitter typing this up. A couple of weeks ago when we had Dragan Kesic in, we mentioned he had never missed an extra point in college. He missed one on Saturday.
Oh, no.
Twitter said that, I don't know if it was
a
the
bad
snap or
snap.
the hold, was terrible.
The snap was it skipped.
Yeah, and then there was some laces involved. So he missed an extra point, but I was told that it was not his fault. So you're confirming that was accurate.
Yeah, absolutely. Ever since he sat right here in Saucy's seat, and so then now I pay attention when he's kicking.
Which sucks. If it's not your fault and you miss one,
Right.
that's on your record, even though, it just looks like you missed one. Nobody's going to go back and check that it was a bad snap or a bad hold.
Well, look at the Denver situation. They had a potential game-winning field goal against the Chiefs.
Yep.
It gets absolutely blown up on the left side. It gets blocked. Well, that's a missed field goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like 4 guys could have blocked that one in that particular
That goes down on the
situation,
kicker's stats as a missed field goal.
And what have they won? 15 straight, I think. The Kansas City Chiefs have won 15 straight games. I think the last team that beat them was the Raiders last year. That's
Crazy.
pretty, and Denver's not very good.
Well, the
No,
Chiefs
but
are
they're ascending.
Defensively, Denver's pretty good.
And Bo Nix is getting better
Yeah.
every week, it seems like.
Well, they had the lead all the way until the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I know.
Broncos did. Yeah.
Telling you, man, the more games the Chiefs win, the less likely they are to do anything in the postseason.
Isn't it funny that everybody they walk away from every Sunday with the Chiefs win, and they're like, but they're not that good. But in the end, they find ways to win.
They
So
do.
is
It's
it
all
that
right.
just sort of the mark of a championship team? Is that you just find ways to win?
It is the super easy cliche that they have Mahomes and we don't.
They play
Yeah, but
Buffalo
it's not
this
necessarily.
weekend.
I mean,
I'm
Mahomes
just
has
saying-
been a little bit magical towards the end of games.
That's
but
my
it's,
point.
It's
Yeah.
the defense that keeps them in the game for Mahomes to have a little magic.
But when we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, Ben, when I was like, if the Lions and Chiefs played at a neutral site right now, who would you bet on? And almost everybody
Lions.
thinks the Lions are a better
The
team.
Lions, yeah.
But it's just super hard to bet against arguably the greatest quarterback
100%.
of all time. That's the problem. Is I think the Lions are a better team than the Chiefs, but they don't have Patrick Mahomes.
If you keep them close, Mahomes is going to get a win more than likely for you. But
And it doesn't really matter because the Chiefs are the Chiefs and they're going to be in the postseason no matter what at this point in time. But their biggest test of the year starts next week or is next week going to Buffalo. So you have to play Josh Allen, who is playing really, really well in a hot Buffalo team at Buffalo on the road. The thing is, even if they lose that game, people are like, okay, well, that's a good high quality loss,
The Bills are 2.5-point favorites. Hawk, you want some action?
well,
I've
you
been
just
taking your money a lot.
Yeah,
you
you
just
have.
cashed $250.
I did.
Yeah, 350 because
What's the other
Michigan stayed within 14 of
Indiana.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
wow,
Who
he
you
paid you
taking?
$350 this
$350
I
week.
would take the
It's a nice
Bills.
little hit.
oh, okay.
Thank you.
If you're taking the Bills, then no.
Hawk?
I wouldn't take the Chiefs.
No, I think I'm okay, baby.
All right, cool.
I don't like that one.
Coreless?
Thank you.
No, I'm done gambling. Gambling's for losers.
Is that right?
I was just about ready to be honest with you, but I thought you were going to go Chiefs.
No, I would take the Bills.
Okay.
Wait, you'd gamble? Man, I might take the Chiefs just so you'll gamble.
That's good thinking.
I dabble every once in a while.
You guys want a guarantee? Here's a guarantee. If you have nothing to do tonight, do whatever you can to get to the XL Energy Center and see Billie Eilish.
Oh, is it
Really?
that good?
Empty the clip. If she ever plays the Sphere in Vegas, she can have all of my money. All of it.
That good.
That good.
I heard the
That good.
Vince Gill,
Exceeded my expectations, and I was super pumped, and she was better than I thought.
when you see the,
A+.
the Sphere, I heard Vince Gill, and I know he's playing with the Eagles now, but I know that it's Vince Gill. But he said it was the most distracting thing he's ever seen playing the Sphere. He goes, I've never had that many people not pay attention to me on stage
Sure.
because there's just so much
Yeah,
going
you look
around.
around, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sweet.
He said it was kind of hard to perform there.
Pretty cool.
Well, that's
No.
sweet, Core.
Yeah. Is Ames into Billy or not really?
No.
Oh, man.
No.
You're not either? Not necessarily?
Not at all.
Oh, man. She can do it all. That kid has I shouldn't say kid. She's 22 now. She's got the most talent of all time. And what's crazy is like, when you have a singer that's that good, historically, the best singers on the planet aren't super cool. They're just popular, right? Like Celine Dion in the 90s was super popular. I don't know if she was ever...
No, she wasn't like cool. No.
Adele is never like
Adele
cool.
Well, I would say that Adele's pretty cool.
But not like this. This is next level where Billie is like a cultural phenomenon. And exactly, she is like niche cool and just might be the best singer on the planet. She's so good. And she does it all. She plays guitar, plays piano. She was doing some like EDM stuff.
She played drums.
Some acoustic ballad stuff.
Wow, how'd you get that?
Then the last three are a perfect summation of how she can do it all. Last three songs last night, What Was I Made For? From Barbie, into Happier Than Ever, which is arguably one of the best rock songs in the last decade anyway, and it's hers. And then she closed on Birds of a Feather, which is like her big pop song right now, too. So it was like ballad, rocker, pop song, standing ovation. Let's get the hell out of here.
What was production like? Was there like
off the charts?
Yeah,
she's all over the place. A bunch of cool stuff. The stage is kind of like a figure eight. Maybe it's an 8 or maybe it's a B. I can't tell. But then her bands are in the two pits in the open space, and then she kind of walks on this illuminated floor. It was awesome. So much energy, so incredible.
If you had to choose
10 out of 10.
311 or Billie Eilish, you have a chance to go to either one, but you can't go to both.
I go to 311 because it's my favorite band of all time, but I'm so pumped I got to see her once. It's that good.
And she's playing again tonight?
Tonight. Sold out again tonight at the X. But if you can get your hands on tickets, I assume it's the same set list tonight. My guess is she runs it back the exact same. She played all of the hits, Ocean Eyes, Bad Guy, the whole
Ocean
bit.
Eyes is such a great song.
Yeah, she'll make you cry and then she'll rock your face off. She's an absolute beast. 1 billion out of 10.
Wow.
There you go.
Yeah, that good.
Nice.
Go see it tonight at the X, although it's sold out.
I can't believe she's not playing the U.S. Bank Stadium.
I mean, I'm kind of glad she's not, because my guess is the sound sucks, because the sound at the X was fantastic. I did think of Chris last night, though, because the merch lines were epic.
Oh, yeah.
T-shirts were 100, T-shirts were 50, sweatshirts were $100.
Yeah.
Give me a dozen.
Yeah, Hawk don't care, right, Hawk?
That's right.
Yeah, what do you
Posters, $40, and they looked like they weren't very well made. $40.
That's insane, man.
Yep. I mean, it's... Man,
Hawk
when you get to
might
that
go
level,
tonight just for merch.
Yeah.
man. And $8 waters at the X, but I think that's every night, not just for Billy. $8 for a bottle of water. Fun.
Rosy.
Sound is great in there, though, isn't it?
It sounds fantastic.
It's so good in there. I'm always knocked out by how good it
Who
sounds.
goes to a concert and gets water?
A 10-year-old? Yeah. My 10-year-old was there. I didn't get water. It was for the kiddo.
Oh, okay, all right.
She's jumping around, losing her mind. Had the best time of her life. It was the best. More of the Power Trip Morning Show after this on The Fan.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Power Trip Morning Show. Final segment of the day. Cast of thousands over there. And in here as well. Recapping that Vikings 12-7 big win there. And also remembering that it is Veterans Day. We've got some very special guests in the studio with us right now.
That red light, there you go.
There you go. Yeah, I got you on over there. Getting everybody situated in front of their microphones.
Great, thank you.
That's Ben over there.
It's flipped. Yeah, I got it.
There you go.
You got it. Yeah,
And that's the voice of Samuel Verdeja. Hi, Sam. How are you?
Hi, thank you.
Welcome.
Fine.
Thank you for coming in here. Over there's Bruce Richardson. Hi, Bruce.
Hey, Chris.
And over here with me is John Donovan. Hi, John.
Good morning, Chris.
Good to have you guys in. And now I do a little concert show that we do, a Vietnam tribute show called What's Going On with the Fabulous Armadillos. And all three of these gentlemen participate and steal the show at every show. Where they get on stage and tell a bit of their stories about their service to our country. And I thought it would be a great honor for us on the Power Trip Morning Show on Veterans Day to have each of these gentlemen on. So what we're going to do is just do a little preview right now while Ben is still here with us. And then we'll go right into the other studio and do a full podcast that we'll release a little bit later today where we go more in depth about all of their service. But if real quick, and feel free, Ben, before you have to go, and Cory, obviously, anytime, and anybody who's in the other studio over there to jump in anytime with any questions. But let's go around the room. Bruce, would you please tell us your rank and all of that, what branch service you were in, and when you were in Vietnam?
I was what was I? Here I was.
Yeah.
I graduated from West Point in 1967. I had decided to go there because I came from a family that didn't have a whole lot of money, and West Point's a free education. However, you pay for it afterward. And so I graduated in 67, went through Ranger School, Airborne School, and then I went to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, which is no longer Fort Bragg because it was named for a traitor. And then they sent me off to Vietnam. I actually volunteered, and my granddaughter says, "Bubba, why would anyone do that?" But it was at the time the thing we thought was necessary, and spent 364 days in Vietnam and came back to Fort Carson, Colorado. And when they offered me Tour 2 in Vietnam, I got hit the first time. And so when they offered me Tour 2, I said, no thanks, and went off to grad school, and the rest was business from there.
Goodness sakes. Well, when you went to West Point, I'm sorry for my lack of knowledge. When you went to West Point, was Vietnam happening at the time?
It was, except it was very quiet at that time. And the way I tell the story is in 1963, nobody even knew where Vietnam was when I first entered the military academy. And by the time we graduated, we were headed there.
Oof.
And I lost 33 classmates in Vietnam.
My goodness. Can you tell us what your job was in Vietnam for the most part when you were there?
When I got there, by the way, I assured my mother that I would have a cushy job in an office somewhere. However, it didn't quite work out that way. I was a forward observer with the artillery. That means I was out with an infantry company. We traveled around west of Saigon in a place called the Hobo Woods and the Iron Triangle. And then once I made captain, I became the liaison officer for a battalion, an infantry battalion. And we worked all the way out toward the Cambodian border. As I tell the story, of course, we never went into Cambodia.
Yeah, right.
That's the way it was back in those days. And but I worked for one of the greatest guys I've ever met. He was a soldier, and this guy was named Colonel Bob Couric. And he was the most highly decorated man to come out of the Korean War. And Bob and I worked together for about 6 months, and it was just a great experience for me being with a soldier of that caliber. So it worked out great. Then I got a cushy job back in the base camp for my last 75 days in country, and that was pretty good.
Oof.
Wow.
Again, Bruce Richardson, everybody. Next, we'll meet Samuel Verdeja. Sam, please tell us about your service and what branch you were in and what you did over there.
I decided to join the United States Marine Corps for a lot of reasons, but the main reason was really that it was very patriotic at the time to be drafted or to join the military. And I had friends who were the Marines, and they convinced me that the Marines was the route to go because we were all street guys and we're all tough guys, and we had to prove to the world that we were bad anyway, which we learned later in life that we weren't so bad once we got to Vietnam. We were scared as hell. But when I joined the United States Marine Corps, I remember, and I like to tell this story, I remember the day that I became a Marine. Because, back in those days, they abused you physically, verbally, racially. I mean, you name it. They had no restrictions on how they treated you. And that particular moment, we're standing in line getting our traditional, I'm your father, I'm your mother, I'm your psychologist, I'm your doctor, I'm your everything, I'm your wife, I'm your everything, and I own you. And the drill instructor came up to me, and again, I wasn't afraid. I was just scared as hell. And he says, "And you, what part of the world are you from?" And I go, "I'm a Mexican American." Oh my God, that was the worst mistake I made in the military, because he went on for the next 10 minutes to literally drill me about what his Marine Corps would not take as anything other than somebody who could, and this is the actual words you'll know, Bruce, what I mean, says they knew how to kill for their country. And he wasn't going to settle for anything less than a Marine to be in his Marine Corps. And that's the day, that's the moment I became a Marine.
How old were you?
18 years old. Whew. I had just graduated from high school, a week after I graduated, I got my letter to to go into the Army. But I fooled the government. I joined the Marines, and I was only 18 years old. My God, I was just fresh out of high school. I was in love, and it took me a week to say goodbye to all my girlfriends at the time.
What did your parents say? What did, like, the people around you?
Oh, my dad admired that I had a lot of girlfriends. But I share that with you because, a month later, I went to Marine Corps training, boot camp, then went to special training, and I got to Vietnam. And within a week, I was already out into, by the time we get to Vietnam, get processed and get all our gear and get all the do's and don'ts and have all the guys play jokes on you and so on. Once I got into in-country, it happened like this. I was there about a week getting processed back in the rear, back in battalion. And one day they said, okay, your unit's going out. I was assigned to 1st Battalion, 1st Marines, and you're going out to be with 1-1. And they took us out in a big old dump truck, like a vehicle, and they dropped us off somewhere in the middle of, I have no idea where it was, and there was a lot of rice paddies. And from there, they took us to another, more into the jungles. And then a unit came out and got us. They actually came and took us to what we called the combat zone. And they came and got us. And that's really was a real moment for us, but because we were actually there. I was no longer 18. I was scared as hell. So the rest is history, as they say. So I spent 11 months and 10 days in Vietnam. And I'll tell you a story real quickly that when I left Vietnam, by the way, I was 0311 grunt, same as infantry. I got, the lieutenant came up to me and said, Verdeja, you want to go home early? They were this is 1970, August 1970, October 1970. And he said, Verdeja, you want to go home? And I was cleaning my weapon, and my weapon was disassembled. I pointed my weapon at him, it was an M14, and I said, unless you have a chopper here in 30 minutes, and he stopped there, and he turned to the radio man, he goes, call Verdeja a chopper. I was back in the rear that day. Next couple of days spent getting processed out. Meanwhile, they had offered me, and I told them I wanted to come back, a deal to come back within 60 days and rejoin my group. Well, I'm doing radio duty in the rear with another guy drinking rice paddy wine and other things, and as John would say, illegal smile. Mm-hmm. We're doing our job doing overnight radio duty. My unit got hit. They had to restrain us from going out of the compound. And to make a long story short, most of the unit got wiped out. And I went home and never looked back. I tore up my orders and said, I'm not coming back. You can take this job and shove it. And so when I came home to Vietnam, I actually came home to another war zone, actually 2 war zones. I came home to the civil rights movement, and I came home to the anti-war movement. And so what I did was I put my chip away, the chip in my brain at Vietnam and being a Marine. I put it away and I just shelved it for many, many years. Fast forwarding years later came the Fabulous Armadillos, and I was recruited by Major Donovan and joined the team of the Fabulous Armadillos, What's Going On. And ever since then, it's been more of a healing process for me. So that pretty much has brought us to today.
I'm so glad to hear that, because it's just an honor to be a part of that show. And the man you're talking about, Major Donovan, John Donovan's behind me back here. And John, it was your idea to put this show together. And you have your own history of service as well. Can you tell us a little bit about you, please?
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. And my story is really different from Bruce and Sam's, because I joined the service during a time of peace. It was the mid-'80s, and I was going to SCSU, go Huskies, and I was swimming under a mountain of federal debt. I had taken out student loans to pay for my college, and I had no idea. I mean, it was an insurmountable sum. I owed $10,000, which is now about a semester at school. But
yeah, right.
That was 4 years of student loans, and I had no idea how I was going to pay for it. And I'm at home contemplating what the heck I'm going to do with my degree. And this little commercial comes on. Bruce and Sam probably remember it. It had a catchy little jingle. It said, "Be all that you can be." And I thought, that's it. The Army will pay back my student loans. This will be awesome. They'll give me a station of choice. Yeah. So I went down and saw my local recruiter, and then the next thing I knew, I was in Fort Lost in the Woods, Missouri. And then it was off to South Carolina for advanced individual training, and then I got stationed in Augsburg, Germany. And I was over there at the time of the Reagan administration. I was over there at the time that we bombed Libya. Europe was on full alert for terrorist attacks, and I did my 4-year obligation and got out. And I had no intention of going back into the military. But I was working in the East Coast, and a military recruiter got a hold of me and said, "Hey, you served in the military for a while, didn't you?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, we have a Try One program." Try One, what's that? You come back in for 1 year. Just drills. You're going to go in 1 weekend a month. It's not going to be a big deal. We'll give you uniforms. You'll get back into it. And just do 1 year. If you don't like it, you can go back. There's no problem. So I signed up, and at that time, my father's health was failing. I moved back to Minnesota. I transferred my membership from the New York National Guard to the Minnesota National Guard and signed up with the 34th Red Bull Infantry Division. Hoo-ah! Mm-hmm. And I applied for a commission. I got my commission in December of 2000, and 9 months later, 9/11 happened. I got called up to active duty, and I stayed there for the next 18 years until I retired in March of 2018.
Wow. We'll delve into all of that stuff and much, much more in the podcast, and we'll keep you guys here, obviously, a little bit till the end of the show. But, Ben, I know you got to go. Before you go, do you have any questions or anything you wanted to ask before? Because I know you got to head out to do your meeting here in a moment.
I mean, not really a question. It's just more of just a statement of just like, thank you guys. I know you guys hear it all the time. I don't know what phrase really resonates with you guys and what's really appropriate. But I've, on behalf of myself, my dad served as well, and my grandpa served, the utmost respect for what you guys have done. And, we are all owing you guys a debt of gratitude. So thank you guys 1,000 times over. So. Can't wait to hear the podcast already. It's been, 10 minutes of I'm just captivated by you guys' stories. So, can't wait to hear it. And, good luck to you guys. And I got to run.
All right, Ben, thanks.
Thank
Ben
you, Ben
on Twin Cities Live today and every weekday, 3 to 4:30 with Elizabeth on Channel 5. And Ben will be back on Thursday with us.
What does, it's probably a weird way to ask it, and I'll start with you, John. What does Veterans Day mean to you, and how should we observe it?
Yeah, Veterans Day is a patriotic holiday. Many people confuse Veterans Day and Memorial Day because Memorial Day is a day that we set aside as a nation to grieve and honor those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice in the service of our nation, those who have given the last full measure of devotion. But Veterans Day is different. On Veterans Day, we recognize and honor all veterans, and we thank them for their service. It's really a celebratory day. Now, for people like Sam Verdeja, it's also a day of recovery because the Marine Corps celebrated their birthday last night. And so many Marines this morning are probably suffering from some too much celebrating. But nonetheless, on Veterans Day, we recognize everybody's service who served in the armed forces, and we thank them for their service. And so an appropriate way to recognize that is just to tell somebody, hey, thank you for your service. I appreciate what you have done on behalf of our country.
Sam, in regards to that, obviously, and your service over there, one of the things, and Cory, if you want to question or anything like that, feel free to jump in. Same for you, Mus, as well over there. But Sam, in regards to your service over there, you mentioned you get in country and you get in the truck and you go out into the God knows where, and they pick you up and you're suddenly in the zone. How long from the time you set foot in Vietnam was it until you saw action, like live bullets fired at you and around you for the first time?
3 days.
Wow.
3 days was my first, and I remember that well because we backed up a unit that got hit, and we went into and got caught in the middle of the crossfire, and all hell broke loose. And when it was all over, all said and done, I remember. Now, I never smoked, never touched a cigarette. I was 18 years old, had never smoked a cigarette. And a buddy of mine, and if you know they cup a cigarette in their hand, and the palms of their hands, and cover up the smoke, because then a sniper it's easier, they can just snap you. And he says, "Here, your mouth dry?" I go, "Yes." He goes, "You sweating inside?" I goes, "Yes." "Are you shaking inside?" I go, "Yes." Everything was yes, yes, yes. He goes, "Here, have a hit." I said, "No, I don't smoke." He goes, "Here, have a hit." So he showed me how to take a hit. That was my first cigarette ever, and that's the only cigarette I ever smoked in Vietnam. But I remember that because I was just new. I was green. I was green, meaning I just arrived in country, and I was scared as hell. And that was my first cigarette. And I remember that well. And to this day, this moment, even talking about it, I can still recall and see myself and get that feeling of that smoke going down to my lungs. And for some reason, it took the fear out of me. And I say that because that's kind of a landmark for me to remember my first firefight, my first smell of death, and my first having to roll up my belt, and it just say, "Hey, I'm here. I'm going to do whatever it takes to survive." So after that, I was no longer scared.
Interesting.
Jeez. Is it always surreal, or do you kind of get grounded in reality at some point? Bruce, maybe you can answer that as well, because what you said, 364 days, right? So,
but who counted?
Right, but there's a part of me going, man, just do one more day. You could say you're there a year, but my guess is there's just no safe days in Vietnam, and if you can get out one day short, you're going to take that opportunity to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's crazy.
The thing, your first firefight is really an interesting thing. And I remember mine because we were going down the road, and a hedgerow is a bunch of bushes, and it lit up. I mean, literally, there was fire coming from those bushes right at us. And I remember what we did is we stopped, we backed off, and then I called in the artillery. Well, I called it in, and I said, "This is 3-4, I have a fire mission." And the guys responded, and pretty soon it was night, so they illuminated the place. They brought in all this fire. And the next day, this major comes out from our unit, and he said to me, "How could you be so cool under fire?" I was not cool. I was scared as hell. But as Sam says, but the idea was that when I went through Ranger School, that's part of what the training of the Army does. I went through Ranger School. When I called in my first fire mission there in a simulated situation, I remember it distinctly because as I was on the radio, I was, "This is 3-4 fire." And this was in a training situation, but we were being attacked, and all the noise and everything. Once you've heard it, and I vowed that night in training, I said, "I will never overreact like that again. I will never sound scared on the radio." And I was scared, even though it was training. So when I hit Vietnam, I tried to be cool, and I called in the fire mission, but this major comes out and says, "How could you be so cool?" And it was from the training. And so I think that's really important, that it's not about being in combat. Being in combat is an interesting situation, but it's just going through that training that can scare the hell out of you.
So it's the cliche that if you're not ready by the time the fight started, you've probably already lost, right? You
Exactly.
win the battle in training.
Bruce brings up a good point about being calm and collective, and we've seen in combat radio men. They did incredible things because they are the target. Why? Because they have a radio on their back and they have an antenna that goes up, and that's what they aim for. They lower and they get the radio man. If they get the radio man, they cut off communications, and that's a no-no in combat. And the radio men were always calm and under fire, and they under fire. I had a buddy of mine, McCubbin was his name, Charles McCubbin. I seen him hide behind a rock about the size of a small. But both of my hands. He's hiding behind. He's hiding behind. We're laughing because we've seen it. He's hiding behind that small rock, calling in artillery, calling in the count of the enemies, the casualties. I mean, he's doing it, and he's doing it in a tone of voice that's so calm that at the end of the day, he didn't faint. He just collapsed. He collapsed. Why? Because that's when it hit him. But it was all over. But during combat, he was like in total control. So we admired that.
Major, again, by the way, to reintroduce in case you're just tuning in, it is Veterans Day. We have Bruce Richardson, Samuel Verdeja, and John Donovan in here, our friends of the show and friends of mine who are all veterans and have all fought for this country. And again, thank you guys for your time. Speaking of Cory's question, Major John Donovan, the major means you did a lot of that training. Talk to me about what it's like to be somebody who's doing your best to make sure people are prepared to fight that war.
Yeah, absolutely. I did 3 deployments while I was with the 34th Red Bulls, 1 to Bosnia and then 2 tours to Iraq. And the Army is great for training, right? We train and we train and we train. We train to win wars. We train to fight. We train to win. I remember in one such situation, we're getting ready to go to Iraq, and we had to provide enactors for a medical training mission. So we've got a great med unit, Charlie Med in the 34th ID, and their jobs, they're flight angels, right? So they're going to swoop in a combat zone. They're going to pick up the wounded. They're going to provide treatment on site. They're going to provide treatment in the helicopter, in the Black Hawk, and then they're going to get you back to a mobile station where you can get further help. So they needed actors to play out these roles of wounded. So I got voluntold that I would do this. And so I've got this bandage on my leg. It looks like I'm a shrapnel victim, and I'm screaming and hollering, and they provide first aid. Then they get me on a litter, and then they get me onto the helicopter, right? So we're flying. And then the med guy says, well, I've got to put in an IV. And I'm like, okay, well, we're going to simulate now an IV. So he ties it off and he gets the cotton swab, and now he's got the needle. And I'm just like, okay, so you're just going to pretend like you prick. And he goes, no, I'm really going to put it in. And I'm like, while we're in flight, because if you've been in these Blackhawks, and Chris, you've been over there, you probably have been transported. These things don't fly like jets, in a straight line, smooth. No, they're all over the place. I mean, they can drop 4 or 5 feet at a moment's notice. And so the helicopter is doing that, and he is timing the needle with the ups and downs, right? Timing it for the vein, and then boom, he's in.
Wow.
And the IV starts flowing. And I'm like, holy cow, that was good. You are good. And he goes, well, sir, that's what we have to do. We have to do this at home so that we can save lives downrange. That's the importance of this training.
Oof. Man, that gets me emotional. That's incredible. Saucy, did you have something you wanted to ask? I'm sorry. I think I jumped in front of you there.
No, I just, I admire all 3 of you. I'm proud of all 3 of you, and I don't know if that means anything coming from me, but it's just amazing what you guys have done, and it's wonderful.
Bruce, talking about helicopters, didn't you get shot down out of a helicopter one time?
Yeah, that was really, I call it my coming back to God day. One of my best friends was killed in action just a short way from where we were operating. And when Gary was killed, I changed my attitude. When I went to Vietnam, I said I was going to go there to protect the guys I was with. And I could do that. But when Gary was killed, I started killing for revenge. And that was the wrong way to go. And I finally, one day, in fact, the colonel I mentioned, Bob and I were flying together, and we were flying too low and too slow over a firefight where our lead gunner had been killed, and he was carrying an M60 machine gun. He was our point man. The guy jumped out of his hole, took that M60 machine gun, pointed up at our helicopter, and blew off our tail rotor, which helicopters don't fly well without tail rotors. So we came down from about 500 feet, hit the ground, and the skids were broken out from under the helicopter, and I'm trying to pull my radio out. I didn't go anywhere without that radio. And Bob Keurig was already low crawling away from the chopper with the pilot. And it was the pilot who brought us down safely. But it was just amazing because as Bob's low crawling away, he turns back to me and he says, "Bruce, leave the damn radio. I'll buy you a new one." And in 15 minutes after we got back to our guys, amazingly, all the shooting had stopped. I don't know whether they were surprised because they shot us down. Our guys stopped shooting because they didn't want to hit us. But it was deathly quiet. And that was my come back to God moment when I said, surviving this is unusual. And we low crawled out of there, got back to our guys, and it was where I changed my attitude. I went back to protecting my guys rather than being vengeful.
Last thing, because we're about to wrap up the show. And again, we're going into the studio to podcast and do an entire show with all three of these gentlemen. Samuel, last one going to be for you here, though. I've wanted to ask you this a couple of times during the shows, after the shows, but I've never found the right time. And, of course, on the radio in front of millions of people is the perfect time. You were 18 when you went in and when you got to Vietnam. How old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
I think I'm 75.
When you were...
Yes, I am. Let me check my ID.
Gotcha. When you were 18 years old / 19 years old in Vietnam, would you have ever dreamed that you'd be 75 years old?
No. No, absolutely not. In fact, every breath, every step was your death step or your death breath. And you actually seen guys take a step, boom, they're no longer there, or they're laying down next to you. No, I never thought for a moment I'd ever be back home.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah,
I'm glad you're all here. Thank you all for coming in. I appreciate it very much. Cory?
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So that'll be available on the Power Trip podcast, though, correct? I believe we're just going to record
correct.
it, and then it'll be on the normal Power Trip feed. So if you're asking where that's going to be, that's where it'll end up being. After the other 3 hours are posted, that'll be right there. So it'll be easy access for everybody on Veterans Day. Fellas, you're the best. Happy Veterans Day. We'll be back tomorrow, 5:30 to 9. Bonus is still in Egypt, but we got what? Tommy Ryman tomorrow, Gavin Kaysen tomorrow.
Big show, Marnie
Gellner tomorrow. She did an awesome job, by the way, on Friday. I caught a good chunk of that game. She's just the best. Marnie's the GOAT. 9 to noon is next. We'll see you tomorrow, 5:30 to 9, right here on The Fan.
Everybody have a wonderful day.
You too, Ab. I love you.